In today's video, how can Trent win Total Drama Island, Total Drama Action? So let's begin. So Trent is of course a character that of course is really hard, since he threw in episode 3 and 4 wouldn't affect the episode, as he didn't derail at this point in the first 3 episodes. The Trent we'll be using is Total Drama Island Trent, since he's a lot more chill and relaxed, and that Trent would actually be more realistic in this story. Episode 4 is still non-elimination, except that Trent wouldn't be on about his number 9 obsession, and that's it. In this episode with the lasso challenge, Trent would actually try here, meaning that the Guild Crips don't lose the challenge, which is the first big change in this timeline. Trent would actually try here, and so he wins the challenge for his team. Everyone would vote for Heather, since she's the biggest threat that's not immune, and nobody likes her on the team, so they might as well just get rid of Heather here. Also, in this episode, Gwen and Trent never break up, so that is an important thing to note. In episode 6, non-elimination is Aftermath. Episode 7, Izzy still returns, and of course, in this episode, Gwen never throws the challenge here, and so Lindsay and Duncan still go in. I can see Trent going in to try to impress Gwen and keep an eye on Duncan, but I think he would be concerned. But in World Tour, Trent was shown to be accepting of the relationship of Gwen and Duncan. So I'm going to say in this version, while he is concerned, he does realize they're just friends. Gwen would win the challenge, and the Grips go to elimination. Now, Trent would obviously, in this episode, would obviously want to side with Owen, but everyone would agree to vote for Izzy since she's the biggest threat that's not immune, and unfortunately, since she's just returned to the game, she's going home. In episode 8 is also a non-elimination round, so that can be skipped as Trent wouldn't affect anything. In episode 9, as you can see, I'm just talking about the normal episodes, guys, not the non-elimination episodes, is the scaring challenge, and DJ is still forced to be the scarer, and it would be Beth. Honestly, I think Trent would be pretty easy. This wouldn't be that easy to scare. I do think out of this, a lot of people, he would be the hardest to scare on his team, but I think the Gaffers would still win the challenge. In the end, I think Lindsay would go home, but DJ quits the competition, saving her. And episode 10 is still a non-elimination round. In episode 11, we have the Explosivo challenge. Owen still breaks his jaw, and at this point, Lashana gets the reward, but that's kind of it. Obviously, here we have to talk about the Explosivo challenge. Without Izzy explosivoing on her team, there's no reason for the Grips to lose the challenge here, and so the Gaffers go to elimination. Well, Duncan was pretty good at this challenge. Lashana and Harold vote for Duncan, and Duncan and Gwen vote for Harold, and in Duncan Harold tiebreaker, Duncan beats Harold. In episode 12, there's also a non-elimination round. In episode 13, Courtney rejoins, gives the win to the Gaffers, and she's put onto the Grips. Owen is still hallucinating, being chased by cars after chasing the car, since he was still left behind in the safe. Everyone would vote for Courtney, but Courtney still votes for Owen, so he gets voted off. In episode 14 would still be a non-elimination round, but everyone knows about Lashana's trash talking. In episode 15 is the Extreme Sports Challenge. And honestly here, in sports, I think the first challenge would be Lindsay versus Lashana. I think Lindsay would win the challenge. Courtney Duncan, we've already seen Courtney wins. Beth and Gwen, I think Beth would win. And then it's Trent and Gwen. Lashana never does apology sheet here. And unfortunately for Lashana, she just goes home. Now we're at the merge, and basically our merge cast is the same, except we have Gwen and Trent here. So, in episode 16 is Dial for Merger anyway, so this episode is just an elimination round. In episode 17 is Superhero ID. Courtney would befriend Duncan and would try to make an alliance with Gwen and Trent. Obviously, Courtney would want to get Trent, would want to get Gwen out. And this episode, Courtney still wins immunity. Everyone would target Justin, since he's Justin, Beth, and would still have Beth and Lindsay, as they would have lost his touch at this point. Duncan would go to Trent and Gwen, would try to convince Courtney to vote for Justin, but she thinks it's worth it to get rid of Gwen. So Courtney votes for Gwen, Justin, Beth, and Lindsay vote Gwen, while the other three vote Justin, meaning Gwen goes home. Trent is pretty shocked at this and annoyed at the fact that Gwen got eliminated, but Gwen says no worries and wants Trent to win this season. In episode 18 is a non-elimination again, but it doesn't change the outcome, and Courtney would still win the challenge here. Because this episode was an aftermath anyways. In the Princess Bride episode, Courtney is still the princess, and Trent would obviously not do the math things, there's no Harold, so it would take everyone a lot longer to get to the top. Now, Justin would not alienate himself since Harold's not here, and Duncan would be able to race to the top. Courtney was still in immunity since nobody here is going to be able to beat her. And of course, Courtney would go to Trent and try to team up with him to get rid of Justin, insisting that he's too much of a threat with Beth and Lindsay. But Trent would refuse and vote for Duncan since Duncan's her closest ally. Since last episode, she voted for Gwen. Courtney and Duncan would vote for Trent. Courtney would vote for Trent. Duncan would vote for Justin. Justin, Beth, and Lindsay would all vote for Duncan. In episode 20, we have the Get a Clue challenge, and they have to figure out who's the killer. The only difference here is Duncan wouldn't be locked up since he's already eliminated, and it would still be Courtney. Owen still returns as a mole in the Rock and Roll challenge. In this episode, Trent would win because in fact it's electric guitar, and he plays guitar. So I think Trent would be able to win the challenge here, and would do the best out of these people. Now, this is one of the few times Courtney doesn't have immunity, and I think here everyone would just vote for Courtney, since there's no reason to keep her around. And this will be revenge to get back at Gwen. In episode 22, we have the Crouching Owen, and Owen would still sabotage Boys vs. Girls, and Justin would realise his looks aren't really going very well with Beth and Lindsay, and so he would make an alliance with Trent, as they were in a band together, and so he'd make an alliance with Trent so he could try to get to the end. In episode 23, we have the 2000 Space Owen. Owen would still get everyone to fire the rocket ship like in canon, and then the vomit comment would be who would win the challenge here. It would still be Beth. I think Justin would use his looks on Owen to tell him that he's a mole, and because of that, everyone votes him off. In episode 24, we have the Top Dog Challenge, which is your animal buddy. Beth is still here to win immunity, and unfortunately Trent would end up getting the shark. So Lindsay and Beth would vote for Justin, but Justin would retaliate with Trent to vote for Lindsay in a tiebreaker. Justin would beat Lindsay in a tiebreaker, and Lindsay ends up going home. The reason this is not a double elimination in this episode is Owen was a mole and was found out in the original, and so I don't see why Chris would vote two people off here if there's no mole. In episode 25 is Mutiny of the Matt Styles stage, so basically this is clearing a pirate course. Justin, Trent, and Beth would do okay here, and Beth would still do what she done in canon. Justin would get all the Lindsay questions right, and Beth, and Trent would get the Duncan and Gwen questions. Go through an absolute course, and it's very, very close. Trent would win, and would win immunity in this episode since he would do the best. Between Justin and Beth, he would go for Beth since she's the biggest social threat in this episode. Between Justin and Beth, he'd vote for Beth, and so Beth goes home. In episode 20, so Trent and Justin would race to the end, and here, out of these three people, Trent would win the challenge. However, between Justin and Beth, this is pretty tricky since Beth is a social threat and Justin would win a popularity contest. Although Trent has made an alliance with Justin, this could be a good opportunity for him to betray Justin here. Although I believe Trent would be honourable and take Justin to the end. So he votes for Beth. Beth would say he's making a mistake before she gets eliminated, and Trent would apologise, saying that it's nothing personal, and hopes that he doesn't hold it against her. In episode 26, this is a vote in the finale, and Trent would get the most votes, winning the season. Justin would try to charm people, but would congratulate Trent on his win. In the alternate ending, Justin would win the season. Justin will get his own winning video since Justin's one of my favourite characters in Total Drama. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know I skipped the non-elimination episodes, but honestly, I didn't think they were relevant enough to cover for Trent. And I think this is the elimination order how it would go. So I basically did it where Trent wasn't throwing challenges, which was the big thing for him. And I just thought it was better this way, did not him throwing challenges. And yeah, peace and farewell.